All right, welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're going deep on Go performance optimization,
Yeah,
specifically for you senior devs, tech leads, the
toxic.
architects out there. And we're not talking about, Go basics.
Right.
We're talking about really squeezing that extra performance out of your
Yeah.
Go applications, going beyond just writing correct code
Right.
to writing efficient Go. That can truly scale.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I think it's surprising how often performance optimization gets overlooked,
Right.
until it's a problem. But
Yeah.
being proactive about it can be a huge advantage whether you're building,
Yeah.
complex microservices or high throughput APIs,
Yeah.
any system where performance is really key.
Yeah, it's like thinking about traffic flow in a city, right?
Yeah,
You can't just start randomly widening roads or changing traffic light timings
right.
without understanding where the bottlenecks are. Otherwise, you might be making things worse.
Absolutely. And that's where profiling comes in. So, in the world of Go, our traffic cameras are
Yeah.
profiling tools. And Go has this fantastic built-in package called pprof
Okay.
that lets you really get under the hood
Yeah.
and pinpoint exactly where your code is slowing down, whether it's CPU bound, memory hungry,
Right.
stuck in Go routine gridlock.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So for the visual learners out there, you can even integrate that profiling right into your Gin application.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, with the NFKDP Prof package,
Okay.
you can expose profiling data through routes. So it's like having a live dashboard right in your browser
Okay.
makes it super easy to spot those bottlenecks.
All right. So let's talk about notorious performance culprit
Uh,
databases.
uh-huh.
I mean, we've all been there, waiting for a page to load, wondering if our connection dropped,
Yep,
watching that little loading spinner just spin and spin.
totally. Databases, I think they're often the silent performance killers. They're
Yeah.
essential, but
Yeah.
they can easily become bottlenecks if you're not careful.
Right.
But the good news is there are well-established strategies to keep those database interactions nice and smooth.
Okay, so what are some of the key things we should be thinking about?
Well, first and foremost, you've got to make sure you're using indexes effectively.
Okay.
And I know it's basic, but you'd be surprised how often this gets overlooked or implemented poorly.
Yeah.
It's not just about slapping an index on every column, it's about choosing the right index type,
Okay.
like B tree or hash indexes,
Okay.
and understanding, the trade-offs involved.
So it's not just about having an index, it's about having the right index.
Exactly. Now, let's talk about the infamous N+1 problem.
Okay.
Imagine you're fetching a list of users from your database,
Right.
and then for each user,
Yeah.
you make another query to get their orders.
Okay.
So that's N+1 queries, right?
Yeah.
One for the users and N more for their orders.
I see.
It's horribly inefficient.
Yeah, it's like going back and forth to the grocery store for every item on your shopping list.
Exactly. So to avoid that N+1 trap, use joins to fetch related data in a single query or preload the data you need.
Huh?
Fewer round trips to the database, the faster your results.
Makes sense. And of course, we can't forget about caching.
Caching, it's like keeping your frequently used tools right by your side instead
Yeah.
of digging through the toolbox every time.
Right.
Redis is a popular choice, but even Go's built-in sync map
Okay.
can be great for in-memory caching. The key is to identify those hotspots
Right.
where caching can really make a difference. Just be mindful of the trade-offs,
Okay.
like stale data and memory usage.
Right. It's all about choosing the right tool for the job
Exactly.
while
Yeah.
we're talking about optimizing database interactions.
Yeah.
What about connection pooling?
Connection pooling. It's such a simple concept, but it can have a huge impact.
Okay.
Think of it like keeping a few cars warmed up and ready to go,
Right.
rather than starting a cold engine every time you need to run an errand.
So you're saying it's about reusing those database connections.
Precisely.
Okay.
Saves all that overhead of constantly creating new ones.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So let's shift gears a bit
Okay.
and talk about something a little closer to home for a lot of us.
Yeah.
Gin, routing.
Yeah.
Gin is known for its speed, but even with Gin, there's always room for improvement, especially at scale.
Oh, absolutely. Routing can become a bottleneck if you're not careful.
Yeah.
But the good news is, Gene gives us some really handy features for optimizing routing.
Okay.
One of them is route grouping.
Right.
So instead of having this long, messy list of individual routes,
Right.
group-related routes together
Okay.
makes things much easier to find and manage.
And keeps those routing lookups nice and efficient.
Precisely. Another important tip is to be as specific as possible when defining your routes.
Okay.
Avoid wildcard routes unless you absolutely need them.
Okay.
Using a specific route like users
Right.
is like looking for a specific book in a library. Wildcard routes like browsing the entire collection.
Yeah. So it's like crafting a precise search query
Exactly.
versus just throwing keywords in and hoping
Yeah.
for the best.
Now, let's talk about middleware.
Okay.
Middleware is powerful,
Yeah.
but it can also become a performance drag if it's not used thoughtfully.
Yeah, I've seen so many code bases where middleware is just applied globally,
Right.
even when it's only needed for a small subset of routes.
It's a common trap.
Yeah.
It's like having a security guard at every door when you only need one for a specific room.
So middleware optimization is all about being laser focused
Exactly.
and avoiding unnecessary overhead.
And if you're using multiple middleware,
Yeah.
think about the order they're applied in.
Okay.
The ones that are most frequently hit
Right.
should come first.
Okay.
So you avoid unnecessary checks further down the chain.
So streamline that request processing flow.
Exactly. And sometimes it might even be worth writing your own lightweight custom middleware
Well,
instead of relying on those bulky generic ones.
makes sense. So let's take a little detour here
Oh,
and talk about HTML templates.
Okay.
I know not every Go application uses templates,
Right.
but for those that do, any performance considerations there?
Absolutely. If you are using templates, there are a few things you can do
Okay.
to optimize that rendering performance. First, always cache your compiled templates.
Okay.
It's like memorizing a recipe instead of reading it from a cookbook every time you cook.
So cache once, reuse many times.
Exactly. Saves you from repeatedly parsing and compiling those templates.
Makes sense.
And when you're working with complex templates,
Yeah.
don't forget about template inheritance.
Template inheritance. It's like having a blueprint
Precisely.
that you can reuse.
You create a base template with common elements
Right.
and then extend it for specific pages.
Okay.
Keeps things DRY, you know?
Right.
Don't repeat yourself.
And keep your templates lean and focused.
Exactly. And lastly, remember those templates, they should primarily be for presentation. Keep that complex logic in your Go code.
Separation of concerns.
Exactly. Now, are you ready to dive into Go's concurrency superpowers?
Ooh, let's do it. Concurrency. That's one of the things that makes Go so powerful,
Yeah.
efficient, but it can also be a bit tricky to get right.
It's a powerful tool. You need to know how to use it.
Right. So how do we harness the power of concurrency without shooting ourselves in the foot?
Well, one of the most common use cases for concurrency is handling long-running tasks
Right.
that would otherwise block the main execution thread.
Right.
Imagine you're working on a report and you need to make some photocopies.
Okay.
You wouldn't want to stop writing and wait for the copier to finish, would you?
No, time is precious.
Exactly. So instead of blocking, you delegate the photocopying to someone else
Right.
while you continue writing.
Right.
In Go, Go-routines are like those helpful colleagues
Okay.
who can take on those background tasks
I see.
without interrupting your main workflow.
So they're like our little helpers running concurrently, keeping things moving smoothly.
Now, for tasks that can be broken down into smaller, independent units of work,
Okay.
worker pools are a fantastic solution.
Right.
Imagine having a team of dedicated workers ready to tackle jobs as they come in.
It's like having an assembly line, each worker specializing in a specific task.
Precisely. Worker pools are great for tasks like image processing,
No.
data analysis, anything that can be parallelized. And of course, we can't talk about concurrency without mentioning channels.
Right. Channels, they're like the communication highways of our concurrent world.
Exactly. They provide a safe and reliable way for Go-routines to communicate and share data.
Okay.
Think of it like passing messages between team members instead of having everyone shout across the room.
Right. Keeps things organized, avoids those chaotic situations where everyone's trying to talk at once.
Precisely. They ensure that data is passed between Go-routines
Right.
in a synchronized, orderly manner.
Okay.
Prevents race conditions and those concurrency-related issues.
So channels are like the traffic signals
Exactly.
that keep everything flowing smoothly in our concurrent city.
Now, are there any common pitfalls we should be aware of
Okay.
when working with Go-routines and channels?
Huh?
One of the most common mistakes
Yeah.
is creating too many Go-routines.
Got it.
While they're lightweight,
Right.
they still consume resources.
Right.
And creating an excessive number of them
Yeah.
can actually lead to performance degradation.
It's like having too many cooks in the kitchen.
Exactly.
Sometimes it's better to have a smaller, more focused team.
And it's crucial to ensure that those Go-routines are properly synchronized and managed.
Okay.
Otherwise, you can end up with deadlocks, race conditions,
Right.
all sorts of concurrency-related headaches.
So make sure your team's well coordinated,
Precisely.
communicating effectively.
Mastering concurrency takes practice and careful consideration.
Right.
But the rewards in terms of performance and responsiveness can be well worth the effort.
I think we've covered a lot of ground here,
We have.
but there's still more to explore.
There-
Let's dive into another often overlooked area that can significantly impact user experience:
Okay.
serving static files efficiently.
Oh, yeah.
I've often seen developers focus so much on the back end
Right.
that they neglect the front-end optimization.
Yeah, it's understandable,
Yeah.
but serving those static files quickly and efficiently, it's
Right.
crucial for a smooth, responsive user experience.
Right. Especially when you have lots of images, CSS, JavaScript files.
Exactly.
So let's talk best practices. How do we optimize the delivery of these static assets?
Well, one of the easiest and most effective ways is to offload the serving of those static files
Okay.
to a CDN,
Okay.
a content delivery network.
Right.
Remember those strategically placed warehouses we talked about?
Yeah.
CDNs are like that for your content.
So it's about bringing the content closer to the users,
Exactly.
reducing latency, improving load times.
By distributing your static files across multiple servers around the world,
Right.
you ensure that users in different geographical regions get fast access.
It's like having a local store for your content.
Precisely. And don't forget about caching headers.
Right.
These tell browsers to store files locally,
Okay.
so they don't have to be fetched repeatedly.
So give the browsers a little cheat sheet so they don't have to keep asking for the same information.
Exactly. Caching headers significantly reduce the number of requests,
Right.
hitting your server, improving performance, and reducing bandwidth usage.
Makes sense. And speaking of making things smaller and faster,
Yeah.
let's not forget about gzip compression,
gzip compression.
a classic,
Classic.
but still relevant.
Especially for text-based files.
Right, like HTML, CSS, JavaScript.
It's like shrinking those files down
Right.
to a more manageable size.
Right, makes them quicker to download and process.
And Gin makes it so easy
Right.
to implement gzip compression with its built-in middleware.
Few lines of code,
Boom.
smaller, faster files.
Now, before we move on,
Yeah.
I want to emphasize one more crucial aspect of performance optimization. Monitoring and continuous improvement.
Right.
It's not enough to just make changes and hope for the best.
Yeah, we need to track how our applications are performing.
Absolutely. And identify areas where we can further optimize.
So we need some sophisticated tools to help us with this ongoing monitoring and analysis.
We do, and luckily, we have some amazing tools at our disposal.
Okay.
Application performance monitoring tools, or APM tools.
Right.
They provide a real-time view into our application's vital signs.
So like a dashboard showing us metrics.
Exactly.
Yep.
Response times,
Yeah.
error rates, resource utilization, database performance.
So these APM tools are like our eyes and ears, helping us see what's going on
Exactly.
under the hood
Yeah.
and identify those potential bottlenecks.
Popular choices include New Relic, Datadog,
Okay.
but there are many other options out there.
Right.
The key is to choose a tool that fits your needs and gives you the insights you need
Right.
to make informed decisions.
So once we have those insights,
Yeah,
it's all about taking action.
absolutely. Setting up alerts for performance thresholds
Okay.
is like having smoke detectors for your application.
So if something goes wrong,
You'll be notified immediately.
be proactive, responsive.
Exactly. And remember, performance optimization is not a one-time task.
Right.
It's an ongoing journey.
Continuous improvement.
As our applications evolve,
Right.
so do their performance needs.
It's about constantly striving to make our applications faster,
Absolutely.
more efficient, more delightful for our users.
Well said. Now, ready for another deep dive?
Let's do it.
Let's explore some ways to squeeze even more performance out of Gin and its middleware.
Awesome.
You know, when it comes to Gin middleware,
Yeah.
it's easy to fall into the trap of just using, popular feature-rich middleware
Right.
without really considering the performance impact.
Yeah.
Sometimes a lean custom middleware solution can be way more performant.
It makes sense. Yeah, I've seen cases where you write the custom middleware,
Right.
and even though it seems like more work up front, it ends up being far more performant.
Yeah, it's all about choosing the right tool for the job.
Right.
Sometimes a scalpel is more effective than a sledgehammer.
Right.
And speaking of efficiency,
Yeah.
let's not forget about those HTML templates.
Of-
Not every Go application uses them.
Right.
But if you do, optimizing your templates can make a noticeable difference.
Yeah, I think a lot of developers underestimate
Yeah,
how much template rendering can impact overall performance,
for sure.
especially when you're dealing with complex templates
Right.
and high traffic volumes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But the good news is, optimizing templates often comes down to simple
Right.
yet powerful techniques.
Okay.
Caching your compiled templates.
Yeah.
One of the easiest.
Like a cheat code, right?
Like a
Compile
cheat,
once,
yeah, right.
reuse many times.
It saves you from repeatedly parsing and compiling
Makes sense.
those templates, which can be a real time saver.
Right.
And when you're working with complex templates,
Yeah.
don't forget about template inheritance.
Template inheritance.
Yeah.
It's like having a blueprint.
Precisely.
You can reuse.
You create a base template with common elements,
Right?
and then you extend it for
All right.
specific pages.
Okay.
Makes your templates more manageable, keeps things DRY, don't
Mhm.
repeat yourself. And let's not forget,
Yeah.
templates, they should primarily be for presentation.
Okay.
Keep that complex logic in your Go code where it belongs.
Separation of concerns.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now let's shift gears and talk about
Okay.
one of the most exciting aspects of Go,
Okay.
concurrency.
Yes, concurrency.
Mhm.
One of the things that makes Go so powerful
Right,
and efficient,
right.
but can be a bit daunting for some developers.
It's like having a high-performance sports car.
Right.
Exhilarating to drive, but you
Yeah.
need to know what you're doing.
You got to know what you're doing, right?
Hey.
So how do we harness that power
Yeah.
without driving off a cliff?
The key is to understand the different tools at our disposal
Okay.
and when to use them. Go routines, for example, are
Ah.
fantastic for handling long-running tasks
Okay.
that would otherwise block the main execution thread.
Right.
Imagine you're working on a report, you need to make some photocopies.
Okay.
You wouldn't stop writing and wait for the copier to finish.
No, you got other things to do.
Exactly. So instead of blocking,
Right.
you delegate the photocopying to someone else while you continue writing.
Delegate.
In Go routines are like those helpful colleagues
Okay.
who can take care of those time-consuming tasks
Okay.
in the background
Like-
while you focus on the main event.
So it's like having a personal assistant
Exactly.
that takes care of those things for you.
By offloading those tasks to Go routines,
Right.
you keep your application responsive
Okay.
and you prevent it from getting bogged down.
And then for tasks that can be broken down into smaller
Right.
independent units of work,
Yeah.
worker pools are a great option.
Worker pools are incredibly powerful.
Right. It's like having a team of specialized workers,
Exactly.
each handling a specific part of a larger task.
Each worker in the pool is a Go routine,
Okay.
ready to take on a job.
Okay.
Perfect for parallelizing tasks
Right.
and significantly boosting performance.
So Go routines are like our individual workers.
Right.
Worker pools are like our well-organized teams.
Yeah.
And to keep everything running smoothly, we need communication,
Right.
which is where channels come in.
Channels are the lifelines of our concurrent world.
Right.
They provide a safe and reliable way
Okay.
for Go routines to communicate with each other and share data.
It's like having a dedicated messaging system
Exactly.
for our teams.
Without channels,
Yeah.
our concurrent world would quickly descend into chaos.
Right.
But with channels, we
Yeah.
have this powerful mechanism
Built
for
into-
synchronization and data sharing.
So Go routines are our workers.
Right.
Worker pools are our teams.
Yeah.
Channels are our communication channels.
It's like building a well-oiled concurrent machine.
Right. But with all this power comes responsibility, right?
Absolutely. Concurrency is powerful,
Yeah.
but it's important to use it wisely.
Okay.
One common mistake is creating too many Go routines.
That makes sense.
You know?
Yeah.
Having too many Go routines could actually hurt performance.
Too many people trying to work in the same space.
It's like having too many people trying to work in the same space.
Right. Gets crowded, inefficient.
Things get crowded and inefficient.
Right.
While Go routines are lightweight,
Yeah.
they still consume resources,
Right.
and creating an excessive number
Yeah.
can lead to contention and slow things down.
Right. So it's about finding that right balance.
Exactly.
Making sure we have enough Go routines
Yeah.
to leverage concurrency, but not so many
All right.
that we overwhelm the system.
And it's equally important to make sure that those Go routines are properly synchronized
Right.
and managed.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can run into deadlocks, race conditions,
Yeah.
which can be real headaches.
It's like making sure our teams are coordinated, communicating effectively.
Precisely. Mastering concurrency takes practice and discipline,
Right.
but the rewards are well worth it. You can achieve incredible performance and responsiveness
Oh, yeah.
when you harness it effectively.
So now let's shift our focus to something that's often overlooked,
Okay.
but can have a huge impact
Yeah.
on user experience.
Yeah.
Serving static files efficiently.
Oh, yeah. It's easy to get caught up in optimizing our back-end code
Right.
and forget that those static assets,
Right.
images, CSS, JavaScript files,
Right.
they play a critical role in how users perceive our applications.
It's the first thing they see.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
A slow-loading website or application can be incredibly frustrating,
Right.
even if the back-end is blazing fast.
So what are some key strategies
Yeah.
for optimizing the delivery of static files?
One of the simplest and most effective techniques is to utilize a CDN, a content delivery network.
Content delivery network. Right. It's like those warehouses we talked about.
Exactly. Instead of serving all our content from a
Right.
single location,
Right.
we distribute it across multiple servers around the world.
So it's closer to the users.
Bring it closer to the user.
Reduces latency.
By leveraging a CDN,
Okay.
we reduce latency. We ensure that users,
Right.
regardless of their location,
Right.
get the content they need quickly.
Like having a local store for your assets?
Precisely. And don't forget about caching headers.
Okay.
These are simple yet powerful instructions
Right.
that tell browsers to store files locally,
I mean,
so they don't have to be fetched repeatedly.
give them that cheat sheet
Exactly.
so they don't have to make all those round trips.
Caching headers can significantly reduce the number of requests,
Right.
hitting your server, freeing up resources, improving overall performance.
And then speaking of making things smaller,
Yeah.
faster to deliver,
Right.
gzip compression.
Gzip compression. Oldie but a goodie.
It's like zipping up a suitcase, right?
Right.
To make it more compact, easier to transport.
Right. Smaller, faster to send over the wire.
By compressing those text-based files, our HTML, CSS, JavaScript,
Okay.
we significantly reduce their size,
Yeah.
makes them much faster to download and process.
And I love how easy Jin makes it.
Yeah,
With that built-in middleware. A
absolutely.
few lines of code, boom, you're done.
Now, let's switch gears and talk about an essential aspect
Okay.
of performance optimization,
Okay.
monitoring, and continuous improvement.
It's tempting to just make some optimizations
Right.
and then just cross our fingers and hope for the best.
Yeah.
But I think having a system in place for ongoing monitoring and
All right.
analysis
Oh, absolutely.
is crucial.
You hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
And luckily, we have some fantastic tools to help us with this.
Okay.
Application performance monitoring tools, or APM tools,
Right.
provide a real-time view.
Into our application's vital signs.
So like a dashboard that's showing us all those metrics, response time.
Exactly. Response times, error rates,
Right.
resource utilization, database performance,
Right.
all that essential information.
So those tools are like our eyes and ears,
Mm-hmm.
helping us see what's going on
Exactly.
under the hood, identify those bottlenecks.
Popular choices include New Relic, Datadog,
Okay.
but there are many others out there.
Right.
The key is to choose a tool that fits your needs
Okay.
and integrates seamlessly into your workflow.
Right.
So once we have those insights,
Then it's time to take action.
absolutely, setting up alerts for performance thresholds
Okay.
is like having smoke detectors for your application.
If something goes wrong, boom.
You'll be notified immediately.
Be proactive, be responsive.
Exactly. Now, before we move on to our final thoughts,
Okay.
I want to emphasize one more thing.
Okay.
Performance optimization,
Right.
not a one-time task.
Right.
It's an ongoing journey.
Continuous improvement.
As our applications evolve,
Right.
so do their performance needs.
It's about always seeking ways to make things better.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Why?
Now, are you ready to wrap things up?
Let's do it. We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, from database optimization and efficient routing to harnessing the power of concurrency and making sure our static assets are served swiftly.
Yeah, we've explored some really powerful techniques that can help,
Yeah.
really squeeze that performance out of your Go applications.
But it's not just about knowing the technical tricks, right? It's about a mindset,
It's a commitment.
a commitment to continuously improving.
Absolutely. That pursuit of excellence,
Yeah.
that desire to build applications that are not just functional,
Right.
but truly performant and delightful to use.
And that's what makes being a developer so exciting.
Yeah,
It's that challenge to push the boundaries
absolutely.
and create experiences that are both technically sound and a joy to use.
It's finding that sweet spot where performance and user experience
Right.
really intersect.
Now, before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought.
Okay.
Remember, Performance optimization is an ongoing process.
It is.
Don't be afraid to experiment.
Right.
Profile your code. Constantly seek ways to make things better.
Embrace that journey of continuous improvement.
Yeah.
Always something new to learn.
Right.
Always a way to make your Go applications even faster and more efficient.
Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive
It does.
into Go performance optimization.
It's a pleasure.
Huge thanks to all of you for joining us on this journey.
Yes. Thank you.
And before you go,
Yeah.
don't forget to subscribe to the Pragmatic Reviews YouTube channel.
Hit that like button.
Hit that like button.
Leave us your comments and questions.
Leave your comments and questions. We love hearing from you.
Absolutely. And keep those Go applications running smoothly.
Until next time, happy coding.